Hey, hey, hey! Welcome to the Pom and Fazz football show on a Friday. I've got the legend that is. He's been a bit anonymous. He's been a little bit in the shadows. I've got Fazz out of his cave back for this Friday show. How are you doing, Fazz?
I'm very good. I'm very good. And for all those wondering, no, I'm not dead. I've just taken a little bit of a break from Twitter. It started to get a little bit hectic with a few things, so I took a little break from it. So I'm not dead, but I am here to talk about one of the greatest creations that the so-called God ever made, and that is world football. So it's so good to be talking about the Premier League with you.
Mate, it is indeed. It's our favourite time of the year. And obviously, we're not far off as well. Just wanted to touch a little bit on the World Cup.
Ooh,
That's snuck up on us. I got some texts from Foxtel telling me about the World Cup rugby starts this weekend. And then it's followed by the World Cup of the round ball. So that's going to be really exciting to be doing this show. We might have to do some watch-alongs, Faz, because the
mate,
times are perfect.
I don't care what anyone says. The World Cup is just the next level. When you're a kid growing up, you always remember the World Cup. Even consistent watchers always watch the World Cup. You know, I've got mates of mine who wouldn't watch a ball be kicked for 4 years, but then that World Cup's on and they're up stupid o'clock in the morning watching every game. And yeah, I'm pumped for the World Cup. And you're right, it has just kind of snuck up on us. It is coming around. And what makes it so tasty is you're seeing these players on the fringes of their World Cup squads starting to take, step it up a bit, starting to say, oh, hang on a minute, I might actually miss out on a squad spot here, so I need to pull my finger out. Jared Bowen, I'm looking at you, and he has the last few weeks has stepped up, but that's what the World Cup is, and there might be a few surprises, and I'm really, really looking forward to talking about it when we get there.
Hey, I can't wait as well. I love a cheeky World Cup. Well, I mean, there was a heated week in the Premier League, so I suppose we best digest that.
It doesn't hurt me. Do you want to feel how it feels?
Well, all sorts of weird and wacky results happened last week. I'm sure everyone will stay tuned. The first night of the fixtures, though, there was Bournemouth 2-1, Chelsea 3-0, City 4-0, Newcastle 5-1, and the Spurs got the job done against Brighton. There were some good talking points in that one as well, wasn't there? I mean, let's briefly touch on Potter's Chelsea. Just seems to have got, I know they only beat Wolves, but a little bit of a lease of life, isn't there, at Chelsea? A bit of freedom when you watch them play.
It is your typical new manager in, a little bit of that, like the shackles have been released a little bit. I love what Chelsea are doing. That pains me to say, obviously being a West Ham fan, but I love what they're doing. I love Graham Potter, and I think even you just saw like Libbojrjr, who obviously had a good few seasons at Southampton, is now coming off the bench for Chelsea, scored his first ever Chelsea goal. So good on him for that. And he wasn't getting a look in under Tuchel. So I think just Potter's coming in. He's just like, no egos here. I'm going to play the best players. And yeah, look, we're right. They did only beat Wolves, but hey, 3-0 win's a 3-0 win. I don't care what anyone says.
And it's funny you talk about some of the players he's giving chances to, like Kai Havertz has started under Potter, Pulisic as well, the LeBron James of soccer. He's starting to give faith, isn't he, into some of these players. We've even seen, and I've enjoyed this, and this is probably England type ramifications, but for Mr. Trevor Chalobah as well, he was started by Tuchel when he kind of quickly dropped him as the pressure gone, and you've started to see him show a bit of form as well. So you can see Potter's starting to maybe just release the shackles, like you say. Some of them players are starting to perform.
I love it. I love it. I love seeing it. And the other one, a little bit of a question mark now. I'm not too sure. I won't profess to know this, but Aubameyang, Tuchel got him across. Now he's on the bench, didn't get on. I don't know. Is there going to be a little bit of an issue there?
To be honest, when Tuchel signed him, I know he's his mate,
Yeah.
right? But I did think after, like, for me, in the pressure Tuchel was on, to see how he reacted at Arsenal,
Yeah.
I would have said that was I don't think any Premier League manager would have bought him apart from Tuchel. And I'd be worried if I was part, because if you watch that Amazon documentary, he was quite toxic when things weren't going the way, and he wouldn't be the kind of player I'd want in my dressing room should results start to go south.
Yeah, I'm with you. And yeah, it was a strange signing, and I think what Potter's just shown the balls of steel that he has, to be honest, because it would be an easy option to come in. Oh, Aubameyang, big name player, big personality, whatever, to come in and just say, "I will play it," but to actually do what he's doing, I rated Graham Potter so highly anyway, and he's going up leaps and bounds for me again. So
he's going well, and I mean another great result as well. Was I don't know if you saw it, the Bournemouth game. It started off like, was Rodgers going to get 2 in a row under a bit of pressure? But I tell you what, Bournemouth are probably the story of the season. About 6 weeks ago, they looked dead and gone. Gary O'Neill's come in, taking the reins, and tell you what, not only are they tough to beat, but they look a threat now moving forward.
Yeah, and I think we spoke about when they sacked Scott Parker, and I thought it was quite a stiff sacking. I mean, I guess a 9-0 is a 9-0, and that's ridiculous. But the teams they played early on in the season, I didn't think Scott Parker deserved to be booted that quickly. But maybe they're starting to see that that fruit now come, because they're sitting 8th. 3 wins, 3 draws, 3 losses. I mean, they're consistent, if nothing else. But yeah, I think Gary O'Neill's done a wonderful job. Another ex West Ham. He's done a wonderful job with them, and playing the 2 up front. I love it. I love that. Just that going. Okay, you know what? We're going to score goals. We're going to go for it. I think their defense is quite solid. I do have a little bit of a question mark, which we'll get to at some point. But does it say more about Leicester than it does Bournemouth? I'm not sure. But nah. As a Bournemouth fan, you couldn't be happy, because I think every man and his dog had them 20th or 19th.
Yeah, we did. So
yeah,
I've got to say though, I agree with you. Seeing a flat 4-4-2 turns me on.
Wow.
Turns me on.
Beautiful.
I've got to say. Well, I mean, obviously, if we're talking about being turned on, City played my wife's Saints, and the story of this is Haaland only scored 1, but it was an ominous sign, I thought, for the Premier League, that City continue to score goals, and they score them in clusters. 4 individual goal scorers, 4 individual assists as well. It was as comfortable a 4-0, and it probably could have been 8, 9, 10. Like, at the moment, City look like it's how much... Like, they'd be great if you worked in the coaching staff, because I'm sure Pep at the moment could say, what you betting on? Oh, I'm going to go 6-0, and he'll be like, all right, we'll sort that out for you. Like, you can make some money off it.
They're just ridiculous. I don't even think they got out of first gear against Southampton. They put 4 away. They just go about their business. What they look like to me, and you look at the ladder, you look at the results, it's like FIFA. It's someone's playing career mode. There's someone up there who's selected Man City as career mode for FIFA. That's what it is, because they're a piss take, and they're great to watch. And I know, like, at some point, and I guess it's because they don't have many fans and that they're not that obnoxious. At some point, we'll get sick of them, but I'm not sick of them yet, if that makes sense. Like, if this was Liverpool or whoever, I'd be like, oh mate, I'm done with these blokes. But there's something about City that it's just, I know you'll disagree being a United fan, but there's something about him that just is likable. I don't know. Yeah.
I've got to say, it is quite annoying, because like, the form that KDB in and Haaland, they are unmissable telly. Like honestly, I am scouting that result. I am going, when are they on? I'm watching that. And it is hard to be like that, because you can't miss it. It's unmissable. It's Paris Hilton sex tape. You have to see it.
And you know what? Because everyone's going to be talking about it the next morning. So you're just missing out. If you're not tuning into Man City, you're missing out.
And I loved how the commentators were actually really disappointed at 3-0 because Haaland hadn't scored. It, it was unbelievable. And then when he scored, there was like this relief. Like even I felt relief because I was like, please score. Come on, Erling. Come on.
I think because a lot of people are writing checks that they might not be able to cash, if you know what I mean. So a lot of people are saying Haaland, the greatest striker to ever play, greatest Premier League player to ever play. So a lot of people have made a lot of big statements about him, which I find it hard to disagree with any of them. But so when he doesn't score, people are going to come and say, oh, he's not that good or whatever. But he's just we could literally do a show, the Pommy and Fazz Erling Haaland show.
Like, we might have to about him during the World Cup because we won't be able to talk about him for 4 weeks.
Oh, ridiculous.
I mean, the other one as well, big spenders, Newcastle, they were absolutely dominant 5-1. They were very impressive. And the Geordies really starting to just show their teeth because that was a game that I think many people thought may test them, but they weren't tested. They romped that one.
Yeah, and I think Newcastle, they're just starting to maybe just get a little bit of that swagger about them. I think that big money does, and I think the most important stat for me about Newcastle is 9 games in, they've had 1 loss. I think that's huge. You could say, was it 3 wins, 5 draws? That's fine, but the 1 loss, I think that's very important. You're not a genius to say this, but if you're not losing, you're going pretty well. Do you know what I mean? So the fact that they can just eke out results when they need to, and then put a 5-1 away against Brentford, to me that's what great teams and really good teams do. They might play a shit game and get a 1-1 or a whatever, but the last 2 they've scored 9 goals in 2 weeks. So I really like what they're producing.
Mate, they're looking good. And I know what you mean about the swagger. There's a bit of Kevin Keegan's Newcastle about it. Do you know what I mean? They look like they're having fun. They play football like they're having fun.
And I'll say this now with what I said about City, about how, I'm not sick of it. I reckon Newcastle will be very... You'll get sick of them very easily, I think, and very quickly. I think their fans are... And I love their fans. That's why. Their fans are loud. They're obnoxious. They're the type of fans that you love to hate and you wish you were a part of it. So when they start coming good and continue on, you'll be like, no, I wouldn't mind to see them drop away a bit.
Yeah. No, I feel you're going to hear about it. And the final game on that day was Spurs 1-0. They basically did the perfect Conte, didn't they? 1-0, got Kane early goal and saw that game out. Ruthlessly efficient is a Conte system.
Yeah, it was, as soon as they got that one up, you almost turn it off because it was boring as batshit after that.
It was very consent. And then we had Palace versus Leeds. We are going to talk about one of these teams. But Eze with the late winner, and he was everywhere. And just quietly, Patrick Vieira's Palace are starting to look nice, aren't they?
Yeah, I think Palace, they're starting to do that. They're trying to break away from that bottom 3. You know what I mean? They're trying to just, and you feel like their bottom 3 have kind of got their claws in them, trying to drag them down. But I feel like Palace, they're just kind of doing enough to, are we better than that bottom 3? Are we better than the bottom 6? But I tell you what, and we will get to them later, it says a lot more about Leeds as well, in my opinion. They just can't defend.
They're very one way, aren't they? Let's put it that way. They're very French infantry, but in reverse. Then we've got your team, West Ham, and probably the best Italian striker since Del Piero. Isn't he a bit of a Gianluca?
Oh, mate, Scamacca, what a signing. I'm very happy with him. He is taken to the Premier League like a duck to water. Just big, strong, fast. He's like the Aldi version of Haaland, to be honest. He's that similar build, similar attributes, just obviously 3 or 4 rungs below him. I felt it was watching it. I felt it was going the same way as the Notts Forest game early on. They got an early goal, which was a good finish by Pereira. Fabianski probably should have saved it. And West Ham just could not score. hitting posts, saves, all this. And I even sent you a message, mate. This has got a 1-0, 27 shots written all over it. Until, penalty, the dumbest penalty I think you'll ever see in the history of penalties. I mean, the referee warned him 5 times. Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. He did it. What was the ref meant to do? And then obviously Scamacca and then Antonio coming on and finishing it off with the 3-1. And talking about Newcastle getting their swagger back, I feel a little bit of, maybe West Ham are getting a bit of that swagger back too.
There is, isn't there? I mean, it was very confident. I mean, you talk about your Italian sensation. What a great finish as well. It was a well-taken goal. But the guy who's impressing me every week is Lucas Paqueta. And his teammate, Bruno, was taking the piss for Newcastle. How Lucas didn't go the same time, I think teams may regret that.
Yeah, I think when West Ham signed him, I was just like, I can't believe we've pulled this off Paqueta. Now, what shocks me is he's dividing a lot of West Ham opinions based on people who don't actually understand the game or really know who Lucas Paqueta is, because he's not doing Dimitri Payet things. Everyone thought he was going to come and be Dimitri Payet, scoring free kicks, getting assists, taking blokes on, scoring goals. And no matter how many times you say he's not like that, tell me you've never watched Brazil or Lyon without telling me you've never watched Brazil or Lyon, right? It just blags my head. He's actually, people are saying, oh, he's been a bit of a flop. I think he has been phenomenal. Like his footballing ability, and I say this with all respect to my club, but he's bigger than West Ham. Like he's that next level above, and he's a young guy. I think he's 24. I can't see him at West Ham long term. Put it that way. He is that good.
He controls that midfield, doesn't he? And I think it's no surprise that since he's settled in, you're seeing the best of Bowen, and I think Rice looks a lot more sounder defensively as well, because he's a very intelligent footballer, slots in that hole, uses the ball incredibly well as well. I think that's the big thing. His ability to use the ball is impressive.
Efficiency going forward, like you said, him being settled in, there's no coincidence that Bowen's now getting on the score sheet, Scamacca and Antonio. It's, brilliant.
Mate,
brilliant.
And then we're down to the last 3. The game of the round, though, Arsenal-Liverpool. And this is probably a scoreline, I think, that flatters Liverpool, because watching this game in real time, I thought Arsenal should have won this game by a lot more. But Gabriel with the horrendous mistake, which made it squeaky bum time for him. But Arsenal, again, continue their winning run, and they do now look like the real deal, don't they?
They do. I mean, they're starting to get that bit of a gap up the top, Arsenal and Man City. Can Arsenal be the one? Can they be the one that makes this season interesting, that makes us, challenge City, and all you need City is to drop a game and all of a sudden Arsenal, 4 or 5 points clear. Maybe it's that thing back in the head mentally, kind of like Melbourne in the AFL, for those who are AFL fans. You're just expecting them to slip over at some point. I feel like Arsenal will slip over at some point, because that's just what they do. It's in their DNA to do that. But the fact is, until they do, you've just got to keep praising what they're doing. And we talk about the project that Arteta's done. Long may it continue for them. And I think a strong Arsenal is good for the league.
It is great, isn't it? I mean, and credit to Arteta. They haven't spent big when you look at the other sides in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And tell you what, Martinelli again as well, just absolutely took the piss. And it was great. I thought the big story there is Saka scoring the winner from the penalty spot after his World Cup.
Huge. I thought that was it was a beautiful moment in football, because we all know that the stick that he copped for the penalty miss during the Euros, racist comments and all that absolute garbage. For him to step up, I mean, that shows a man. That shows absolute balls to say, you know what, I fucked up on the biggest stage or second biggest stage behind a World Cup. I fucked up. You know what? To actually have the balls to step up and do it, he could have easily stood away and said, no, I'm not taking penalties ever again. It shows the quality of the man. And you know what? He's the type of guy who could take England far in a World Cup because of that belief in himself.
Well, David Beckham got sent off against Argentina, became an icon, didn't he, at the French World Cup? So
100%.
The model's there. The model's there. And Big Steve, Coventry, mate. It's going to be tough, mate. It's going to be tough to get off the bottom.
I love a bit of Coventry too. I think one of the original,
Premier
good
League
teams,
yeah.
and Premier League. So I'm guessing Steve's a Coventry fan, and I do. My heart does bleed for supporters of those types of teams. My friend Gareth actually is a Coventry fan, and whether you're Derby fans, Sunderland fans, Reading fans, QPR, I do feel for you. I know what it's like. West Ham were in the Premier League, in the Championship, got back, but geez, it's going to be hard. It's going to be a hard trot, but you know what? You stick by your team, whether they're playing Premier League or North Division or whatever. You stick by your team, and that's what being a supporter is.
Yeah, in Coventry, they've been up and down the ladder since missing the Premier League, but hopefully we see them back. There's nothing better than Peter and Love. When I was a kid, the Zimbabwe genius. But back to the Premier League now. Man United, Everton in a game that was really United with their own worst enemy here. It was great to see Ronaldo and Casemiro link up. Casemiro making up for his early mistake on the Alex and Wummy goal. But United just, it was a dominant performance on the stat sheet, but they just don't seem to have that ability, do they, to destroy a team yet?
No, you're right. And I think this was a clear case of individual brilliance. I think really got United over the line. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo, when you think of individual brilliance, his name is the first name that pops up. And Anthony took, a well-taken goal. And I think it's one of those games where it's not going to make the highlights reel. You're not going to look back on it, but it's a 3 points you banked and you move on very quickly. I think that's as simple as it is for United. Individuals got you over the line. Ten Hag won't be happy about that, I'm certain. But you did what you had to do. And sometimes that's all you need.
It was nice to see Martial as well return to form and then do a hammy. That the most Martial thing you could do. And like Michael here says, Martinelli, 7 million. You know what I mean? And how much is Martial? I mean, like, if you paid 7 million for every time he didn't have a hamstring injury, you'd be quite rich.
Yeah. Well, on that Martinelli thing, with Brazil's going to be a pretty familiar looking team in the World Cup. There's going to be lots of Premier League players. I think that's quite exciting. Brazil might actually be, obviously Australia, England, and Brazil might actually be that team. I'm really interested. I'm guessing Paqueta will be there, Martinelli. So it's going to be quite a familiar looking team on that Martinelli. But United with Martial. I in our Premier League preview, I think I said Martial was my player to watch for United, and we'll see.
You were right though; he has been pretty good. It's just he's got the hamstrings made of cheese. Unfortunately, the final game of the week. Big mate of mine, big Villa fan on Twitter, asked about them as well. Gerrard Ball going downhill rapidly, a 1-0 draw with Forest, and Dean Henderson again. Man of the match in this one, like his fourth man of the match. And tell you what, Villa, they're one to watch, aren't they, at the moment with sackings?
Yeah, they are. They're going to be very interesting watch. And I don't care what anyone says. Legend of the game, but you can't be relying on a 37-year-old Ashley Young. If you want to be taken seriously in this Premier League, you can't be relying on him. I'm sorry if that sounds harsh. Loved him in his prime, and it was an absolute mint, well taken goal, might I add. But the fact that he was the one who had to take the goal, I don't know, doesn't sit well for me. And I think a team like Nottingham Forest, who are conceding, like a sieve, I just think this was a game that Villa will look back on if they are in a relegation scrap come, in the new year. This would be a game where they're looking and saying, shit, we really dropped 2 points there.
Mate, it's a concern. If I was them, I would be very, very concerned.
With what Michael just said there about Forest, mate, we mentioned Coventry before and Sunderland. I'll put my reputation on the line here. If Forest go down, we'll never see them again. That'll be it. They can't come back from this. The amount of money they've spent, if they go down, they're absolutely fucked.
Well, I mean, Fazz, you did have them in the segment coming up now with your questions, and they've sacked their entire recruitment team, which isn't a surprise, is it really?
No. I mean, gee whiz. I mentioned it last week. That was, you can't just sign 20 blokes and expect it to work. That's just not how football works or sport works in general. You got to sign the right people, and they clearly didn't sign the right people.
Well, I mean, one to watch, but let's see who Fazz is picking on because he's got a habit of getting them sacked the next week. So who is under pressure?
It doesn't hurt me. Do you want to feel how it feels? Do you want to know?
What you got for us, Fazz?
Yes, well, last week I buried Seller. Yes, yeah, list managers, mate. Tell you what, gee whiz, no comment. I prefer not to speak. So last week I laid my boots into the cellar dweller in Notts Forest, and now I'm ready to lay my boots in. I guess it's low hanging fruit, but you know what? It's got to be said to the current cellar dwellers, and that's Leicester City. I have no idea what is going on with them. Has Brendan Rodgers lost the plot? What? This is not the Leicester we know. This is not the Leicester that we have been familiar with for the last six, 7 seasons. You know, this is just they have no identity. They've got no drive. They're not looking like they're enjoying their football. They're selling their players, which we always knew Leicester were a selling club. We get it, but they used to invest well after selling. You know, they sold. Who was the centre back they sold? Fofana for you know. What's going on? You know, they're still relying on Vardy to come off the bench again, similar to the Ashley Young. I've loved Vardy, but he's probably finished. Madison's just not at the level that he has been in previously. There's something going on there. Tielemans tried to get out of there all off season, but couldn't. Look, this is a great point. I was questioning myself whether I was going to bring it up or not, but I will now that Michael has. I feel like there's a direct correlation between that tragedy helicopter accident and Leicester's decline. I really do. I feel like if anyone wants to go back and do that research and have a look, from that moment, I feel like Leicester have just been on a downhill spiral, and I worry about them because they're another type of team. I don't know yes, they won the Premier League 6 seasons ago, right? Cool. But I don't know if they're one of those teams who, once they go down, I don't know if they'll come back up straight away. They worry me. If I'm a Leicester supporter, I'm quite concerned.
Mate, I mean, you've probably got a good point because, I mean, obviously they've been the family have taken over King Power who own them. And we do know that the Thai economy as well is completely fucked at the moment. So I wonder if that has any correlation. But, I mean, even if it was screwed, you would think that they would just go into a spend and accumulate policy. And that Fofana deal, it seemed to drag out, I thought, too long when it was obvious it was going to happen. And they haven't replaced it. And one thing that worries me more about Rodgers' team is Rodgers is very smart. And I don't see Rodgers in this Leicester side. I don't think they're very hard to break down. One thing about Rodgers is they're usually a wily team, but you look the last couple of weeks, they've conceded 15 goals in the last 5. Do you know what I mean? 5-2. Do you know what I mean? 6-2. Do you know what I mean? Like, these are big losses as well. They're not getting beat. They're getting destroyed.
They're huge. And I think that you're right. And, you know, I mentioned before with Newcastle about, you know, the stupid, obvious comment of, if you're not losing, you're going well. But Leicester, of their 9 games, have lost 7. So they're not even eking out draws. You know, like I said, good teams, if you want to survive in a Premier League, when you're playing shit, you need to be able to eke out that draw. That's what good teams do. That's what teams in relegation battles do. They're not even being able to eke out a draw. Like, this was a perfect example. This game just gone against Bournemouth, how they got nothing out of that game. shows to me they're relegation bound if they can't turn it around. And I actually don't know if they can. Now it's a question. It's a question of, do they back Rodgers in, who's a damn good manager, or do they find someone else? I don't know the answer.
I thought the scariest thing from a Leicester perspective was 1-0, Patson Daka, good goal, went in at half-time. They looked like they were going to be okay. But once Bournemouth scored, Billing scored 68th, 3 minutes later, they were 2-1 down. And you could see it when that goal went in at 1-1, it was almost like the life was sucked out of Leicester. It was almost inevitable it was going to happen. And that is a worry. When your team is suffering PTSD like that, the writing is on the wall, isn't it?
Well, it was a 6-pointer, and you can tell the difference which teams are ready for a relegation scrap. And take it from me, I'm a West Ham fan. If anyone knows relegation scraps, it's me. All right, I'm the expert of them. And you can tell the teams even this early on in October which teams are up for the fight for a relegation scrap. And when you concede 68th and then 71, you're not up for the scrap. You're not up for the fight. And unless something changes dramatically, I don't know. They got I just looked Crystal Palace this week at home. If they don't get something from that, mate, go down to your local TAB because they are in big trouble.
Mate, that job has got Sam Allardyce coming in in January, written all over it.
It is a fait accompli, I reckon, that one.
I can't wait to see Big Sam at the Leicester dugout with some absolute superstar footballers like Maddison and him getting him to boom it long. He'd love Vardy, wouldn't he? I mean,
he would.
That would be Allardyce's dream.
Andy Carroll out of contract, is he? Just...
Do you know what I mean? Andy Carroll and Vardy up top. Pinging balls, mate. It's
Bring
exciting. But we're going to bully another team. And I've got a weird one for you.
It doesn't hurt me. Do you want to feel how it feels? Do you want to know?
Right, we've all seen Ted Lasso, right? And it's a fucking good TV show, right?
It's a good laugh.
It's a very good TV show, right? But there is a reason Americans don't coach football, right? And I'm watching Leeds, and now don't get me wrong, don't be blinded by the fact that I'm a United fan. I want Leeds to stay in the Premier League. They deserve to be in the Premier League. They are, for me, a non-negotiable. If we brought in banning relegation, right, for certain clubs, Leeds would be one of the clubs I would say are banned from relegation because we need them. We need them in it.
Yep.
Watching these guys, though, play football, I'm going to commend them at first. They look very tasty, right? They play in the right way. But defensively, I can't believe that the coach has gone into Leeds. And the issue that you had with Bielsa was defensively, they look dog shit. And Jesse March has somehow, for me, made them worse because they don't press as high up the ground. And watching Leeds play, I think they are long-term doomed. And I look at their recent results and I look at how Leeds are going. They've got Arsenal this week, which God help them. God help them. But I look the Palace game last week, the draw with Villa, the battering against Brentford, the draw with Everton, Brighton loss as well, 1-0. These goals as well were soft goals. They were goals that if you want, like Fazz was talking about, relegation scrap, you can't have them. Like, you can't concede the way they do. And that is my worry for Leeds. I think Jesse sounds a great appointment because Amazon have got fucking Ted Lasso and they thought maybe this will work. But if I'm Leeds United now, I'm looking at it and thinking, have you really improved under Bielsa? And I don't think you have. I just think the players have got a bit of freedom. But I still see the same Leeds that I did minus Bielsa with less press.
Yeah. You are spot on. They are playing Bielsa ball, but from the $2 shop. Like, they just not. It's not. You know, I said it. You know, at our preview show, I said for me, I'll know a lot about Leeds by the way they defend, because since they've come back from the Premier League, they simply can't defend. And Steve, you're right. Yeah. How good is a relegation scrap, by the way? I actually think a relegation scrap is more exciting than a top 4 finish. But anyway, we'll move on. So with Leeds, I look at their team and I think they haven't even changed. You're still rolling with Bamford and Harrison and your favorite, your mate Cock. You know, they're still running with the same blokes, you know, who were under Bielsa. And this is going to sound quite bizarre. I just thought about this, so I'm going to go off a whim, and if it sounds crazy, so be it. This is Brendan Rodgers, I reckon, for this team. I reckon Brendan Rodgers jumped from Leicester to Leeds because he'll come in with that steely resolve, that defensive resolve that could actually fix Leeds like that. So I'm thinking Leicester sack Rodgers goes to Leeds, and they might be all right. But, mate, you're right with what you're saying about American.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is as well, as I look at this side, and I would say that the front 4, 5 that they're playing, like Harrison and Aronson, Tyler Adams sneaking in behind them, Rodrigo and Rocker, who they're playing at the moment. Like, I think that's even more tastier than what Bielsa had with them additions. I think Bielsa would have frothed an Aronson. But I look at it and I'm with you. I just think defensively they look poor. And you know who I was actually thinking for this game and for their coach? And it leads me back to the wonderful Villa. Michael Beale at QPR.
Ooh,
he looks like the genius of Gerrard at Rangers. Since leaving, Gerrard looks stung. But watching QPR play, very hard to beat, incredibly hard to beat with limited resources. And they just keep winning. And I think that suits the Leeds philosophy. Tough, hard to beat, hard to break down. And that's what I think they need.
I like it. Can they snag him out of there is the next question. But QPR have been tasty, absolutely tasty in recent times. So
Leeds are a big club, though. You would have thought any manager I would say any manager outside of the top 4 clubs in their country, if Leeds came calling, that's a one in a lifetime opportunity. Like, you are a hero.
You say that.
Bielsa.
Yeah, you say that, but then how'd they end up with the American? You know, surely there were better options.
Well, I mean, it seems like they had fallen in love with this whole new age. I mean, for me, this whole new age, they went to Red Bull thing. Evidently, if you're a coach at Red Bull Salzburg, right, you get a job. Like, it's only going to be a matter of time. They've got Matthias Jassersel at the moment, who's like 12 years old. You watch some Muppet club be like, oh, we'll get him in because he's at Red Bull. Like, it seems to be this obsession, but for me, Leeds United, it was a bad idea. Like, I can't name you a good American apart from Bruce Arena, but it's just because his name sounds like a stadium.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. No, great call. Leicester and Leeds, they got to pull their fingers out, I think.
But we've done with negative. Let's have a look at some positives.
Do you want to feel how it feels?
Your question, Amy, he had a pretty good career at New York Red Bulls and Red Bull Salzburg. So he's got a bit of acumen that he used to work for a company that sells energy drinks.
All right, now look, what's caught my eye? Newcastle United. Now, I feel like that the reason they've caught my eye is because no one's talking about them, and they're sitting 6th at the moment. I know we mentioned them previous, and I think that they're a bit cursed by the fact that Brighton and Bournemouth and Fulham even 7th, 8th, and 9th, all 3 teams who maybe didn't expect to be up there. And you even called Bournemouth the story of the season. Now, everyone will say Newcastle, money. Yeah, they should be good. But as we know, we've seen with QPR in the past, money doesn't always mean success. I think Eddie Howe has done an incredible job with this football club. And I mentioned in the season previous, I said, you know, which teams want to take that next step? Which teams want to be that, you know what, I don't want to be mid-table. I want to be the best of the rest. You talk about the top 6. Well, I want to be the best of the rest. And Newcastle, you'd have to say, at the moment, they're probably the best of the rest. And I think that's a massive step from being that relegation to mid-table. Now they've got some backing, and now they're the best of the rest. And big fan base, okay stadium. They'll, and I think one of the best managers going around, and I think they will. I think that they'll succeed this year in making European football at some level.
Mate, I couldn't agree with you more. Like, I am frothing what Newcastle are doing. And I want to add as well, you know what impresses me about Newcastle? They haven't spent big.
No.
They haven't gone out and made the mistake as all the other clubs, because City did it, Chelsea did it. Just start throwing big fucking money at any bastard. Like, if this was a Man City rebuild or a Chelsea rebuild, they would have bought Jared Bowen for 100 million off West Ham in the window.
Yeah,
because
100%.
And that's what Chelsea did with Duff. It's what City did with Sean Wright-Phillips. They just went out and bought a local player, triple the price, because he was good the season before. I love that Eddie Howe's kept it conservative, bought Nick Pope for a good price.
What a signing.
Deal was brilliant. Yeah, like they just spent decent money on players that, like you say, probably get them established 6th, 7th. And for me, that is where they want to be to go to the next. If they can sneak Europa this year, you watch them start snaring players.
Well, it's to me, it's and you know, people will call me biased, but it's kind of like the West Ham model that they're doing, and I love it. Build your foundation team, get your foundation right, and then every season top up with a good big name player. Big name player. It's a project. It's not a go out and win the league this season. It's a project. They've got their team. All right, now in the summer, introduce a 40 million pound striker. Great. Then the next summer, introduce a 40 million pound defensive midfielder or whatever. That's how you do it. You build your squad. And I think getting the likes of Pope and Trippier and what they already had to begin with, Callum Wilson, you've got the foundations of a really strong team. And now they can start adding those cherries on top. So you talk about Paqueta for West Ham. What a cherry on top that David Moyes is able to get. You know, you got the 11 on the field that know what they're doing week in, week out, and you just throw a Paqueta in there as that little go get. That's what Newcastle need. That's what they're going to do in the next summer. Get that little bit of a, you know, who's that bit of flair they can get from, say, the French league or wherever, just to top them off. And brilliant project. And you were spot on with what you said. They haven't gone out and made the mistakes of those in the past. They've actually got a good director of football. They've got a good, you know, scouting system that they're going to say, we're going to buy the right players, the absolute right players.
Mate, spawn. And Rob C in the chat, good day to you. Sleeping giant for a long time. Need to get that. I'd love United to be bought out by an Arab. It'd be awesome. But I agree. They have been a sleeping giant. We gave Leeds a bit of love. Newcastle would be another team. If you said to me, Pom, you can stop 6 teams being relegated, Newcastle and Leeds would be in it for me, because they are the heart and soul of the Premier League. And
I'm with you.
I agree with you. I am loving what Newcastle are doing. It's sensible, it's intelligent, and it's sustainable, because I could see, and I hate to say this to you, Fazz, Paqueta going to Newcastle next year.
Of course. And there's every possibility. And that's why teams like West Ham and all that now they need to chase. You know, I mentioned about Leicester before, you know, Crystal Palace, these types of teams who've been in the Premier League year after year after year and just hang around that mid-table. Well, if you're not going to improve, you're only going to go backwards. And I think, you know, the likes of a Paqueta, if West Ham finish, you know, that 12th, 13th and Newcastle playing Europe, well, of course he's going to go there. That's why West Ham need to improve, which they have. And that's why all these other teams need to improve, need to start saying, we want to take the next step. And I love what they're doing. It's a project, and it's one that's exciting to watch.
Mate, they are a very sexy football side at the moment. Talking about my glasses. Thank you very much, Amy. And we'll have a look who's turning me on at the minute.
It doesn't hurt me. Do you want to feel how it feels? Do you want to know?
I copped a bit of abuse last week for picking on Liverpool as a United fan. So just to prove that I am impartial, we're going to talk about a team that I traditionally hate in Arsenal. And I tell you what, we talked about Newcastle being shrewd. This side here has impressed me as well, Arsenal. They've stuck by Arteta. They have a system. They have a plan. This time last year, everyone was slating Arteta. He's not good enough. Get rid of him. Do you know what I mean? But they stuck with a plan. I remember saying to a lot of my Arsenal mates, look, when you lose, you play a system and you understand what he's trying to do. He doesn't shelve. He doesn't shit himself. He has a philosophy. Give him time. They went out this year, bang, 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 did their business in 20 minutes of the transfer window. And look at them. Like, really, we all need to kiss the feet of Arsenal, because if it wasn't for Arsenal right now and Liverpool were the challengers, City would have already had the title wrapped up. Like, it's making it interesting, and full credit to Arsenal. They play their own brand. It's identifiable. Huge credit to them for losing to us, United. And a mark of a good team is how they bounce back. They battered Brentford, who were off 2-5 goal wins at that stage. So they were in form. They put Spurs to the sword and should have smashed Liverpool. They're proving that they're the real deal.
Yeah, so we spoke just before about Newcastle with their project. Arsenal need to be their blueprint. They need to watch what Arsenal do and do it, because Arsenal have been doing this project that we're talking about. We've spoken often about their transfer window. You know, they got Premier League proven players, Jesus, Zinchenko, so on. Great business. And you are right. Like, everything you've said is right in regards to challenging Man City. And I think my biggest problem is my granddad will probably turn over in his grave when I say this, but they have to almost be everyone's second team. They have to be everyone's second team, because we just don't want City to run away with it. And that sickens me. It sickens me to say it, being a West Ham fan, but they are. I'm wanting Arsenal to go well, because I just don't want it to be a one-horse race.
Mate, I'm with you. And I think they've been kissed on the proverbial willy with the postponement. The Queen probably passed away at the best time, because I think if they'd played City at that time, they would have had issues. But I think the fact that that's going to be postponed, presumably after the World Cup, I think is a huge plus, because I don't think City will lose any more games after dropping some points a couple of weeks ago. There'll be another blip, though, just around Christmas after. That's a very condensed fixture.
I'm with you.
I agree with Michael. There's a bit of depth, but at the moment, credit to Arteta, he's recycling his squad very well.
January's a big month for them, January.
Mate, I can see January them doing a bit of business, and suddenly, tell you what, if City lose one, I don't think you'll catch Arsenal if they get ahead. I think if Arsenal get ahead, that's Pom's big call. If they stay ahead after the first 4 matches of the World Cup, you won't catch him.
Love it. Love it.
Spawn Amy as well. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you've got a bit of continuity. And you know what? United need to look at Arsenal and see the blueprint for replacing Wenger. They did the same thing. Saka coach. They've found a philosophy. They've stuck with it. Let's hope United do the same.
Back
United
the bloke in.
Give Ten Hag the time to change the culture to his way. But honestly, I'm sat back watching Arsenal, and I'm enjoying what I'm seeing. I'm enjoying it.
Yep, long may it continue.
You know what I mean? And it would be nice. I'll hate to say it. I'd rather Arsenal win the league than City.
I'll give City one more, and then next season.
I'd rather Arsenal pip them, to be honest. I can't see another City title. I can't. As much as I enjoy watching them play, just don't want to see them do it anymore. Yeah. But let's have a look at the week ahead.
It doesn't hurt me. Do you want to feel how it feels? Do you want to know?
We got a really interesting opener this week. Brentford versus Brighton Hove Albion, and the two Bs. And these are two sides that, are probably the two hardest sides to spot, because they've got identical form coming into this one. And this is really a must-win game, isn't it, for both sides?
This is, of all the games, I don't even know. This could be anywhere from a draw to Brighton 5-0 to Brentford 5-0 and everything in between. This is one of the hardest games to pick. I think Brighton need to pick themselves up, because we did speak about them a couple of weeks ago in regards to they're looking like maybe trying to break into European football. They lost last week, and if they lose again, all of a sudden you start trickling down the table a little bit. Brentford, I think, have been very impressive. None of that second-year blues as we thought they might have got, like Sheffield did. I'm going to say, it's very unlike me. I'm going to say 2-2.
I think this will be a draw. I'm going to go 1-1 because it's the first fixture. It's going to sound like it's going to be sexy and they'll let everyone down. But the mid-afternoon kickoff in the UK, the prime time for us, 10 o'clock. Interestingly, Leicester Palace.
6-pointer, if there was ever one. At Leicester, I think whoever loses this game are in a mountain of trouble, in a world of hurt. I'm going to go 1-1.
I think Palace. I'm going to make a big call this time next week. We're talking about Rodgers not being there.
Ooh, yeah.
2-0 Palace.
Yeah, I couldn't bring myself to saying that. Yeah, I'm with you. I am with you. I just thought, can Leicester pull a rabbit out of the hat? I don't know. I've got them 1-1.
I'm going to say 2-0, and I think Rodgers, he's going to be thumbing a lift. He is. He's going to be out. He's going to be out there, and it'll be sad times. And knowing Leicester, they'll buy someone on the cheap. So look out for whoever that is. But then we've got a game here that is probably two sides that we did have as relegation stonked on favourites, and currently fighting for Europe in Bournemouth versus Fulham. This is the tale of the season, isn't it? This.
It is. I feel like possibly Fulham might have lost that little bit of early season, excitement that they had. They were not impressive at all on the weekend, other than the first 5 minutes. So I'm going to go 3-1 Bournemouth, 3-1 away from home again.
Oh.
And I think that just sets Bournemouth up for a season where you're going to find it very hard to get. Something's got to go horrendously wrong for them to get relegated from there.
Well, I think it's going to be 1-1. I think Fulham. I agree with you. I think people are starting to find Fulham out, but it's going to be an interesting one. It's a great game on paper. There's two great games as well because two sides that we had predicted for relegation, and then we've got two sides that we thought would survive, who every time you watch them play, they look like they're relegation favourites, and that's Wolves versus Forest. This game here has the worst game ever on it, doesn't it? Like this sounds awful, this game.
6-pointer, another one. I can't believe Wolves have escaped our criticism for this show because they have been diabolical. They have been horrendous. Maybe because they're so irrelevant. I don't know, but they have been horrendous, the Wolves. In fact, can we give minuses? Can it be -1 versus -1? I don't know. It's just going to be dog shit. I'm going to go 0-0.
This is literally the AFL equivalent of 2018 Carlton versus 2022 North.
Ugh. It's going to be horrible. 0-0. I'm not even going to watch it.
I can't. That's going to be one of them games, that I get insomnia.
Yeah.
And I'm punished. Thank you very much, babe. I am punished by the football gods, and I'll end up watching that and going to sleep. Like, that'll be a bad game. But then we've got a game that I think is really intriguing because there's another little big pom call. I can see if this is going to go like it did last year where Spurs won 5-0.
Yeah.
I could see Lampard getting his marching orders.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I don't disagree on that. I'm tipping Spurs comfortably 3-0. Everton, they haven't been as terrible as recent times, but they're still just a nothing. They're just not exciting. There's just nothing really about them. I think the longer the season goes on, it's going to be worse off for Everton. I think it's just going to get too much for them at some point. And I think 3-0 Spurs.
I've never been a Fat Frank fan, I've got to say. And there is part of the sick, twisted part of me that enjoys watching Frank Lampard fall.
Look,
But
Say no
I reckon
more.
this could be curtains. I reckon if Spurs do a number, I think if I'm the board, I'm looking at it and thinking, Jesus, we're in a bit of strife here. We've limped to 12th, but is that where Everton are? Like we talk about best of the rest. Everton should be, the years they've been in the Premier League, the best of the rest.
Spot on.
And I think teams have gone well ahead of them. And when I look at some of their results, that result against you, the 1-0, that was the most unimpressive 1-0 ever.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. They like you said, they should be up there at the best in the rest, like they've always been. The fact that teams like Newcastle and West Ham and all that have gone ahead of them, you know, in fact, most of the teams have gone ahead of them, to be honest. Yeah,
Mate, I'm with you.
Trouble.
I'm with you. Rob agrees as well. Like, just fuck Everton off. Fuck them off. Then we've got a great game here. We've got my mate, Rangers icon Stevie G takes on Chelsea in a game that really, if you're Steven Gerrard, we're talking about potential sackings. 16th at the moment. They don't look very good against a real resurgent Potters Chelsea.
Yeah, I've got 4-0. 4-0 Chelsea. This is gonna get ugly, I think.
I want to tip Villa, but I can't. Chelsea are going to batter them.
Yeah, it's going to get ugly.
That is one of them ones that I think it's going to be interesting this year with the Christmas break for the World Cup. I don't think you're going to see teams sack coaches, where usually there's such a condensed fixture build-up. Everyone's racing to sack someone by December to get the best available. I think you might see some teams hold off. If I was Villa, I was Everton, I was them teams we've mentioned scrapping for relegation, I'd want to get this deal done before the World Cup, because you know what's going to happen, and people forget this. At the World Cup, 2 or 3 teams are going to completely fuck up.
Yeah.
So suddenly they're sacked. Suddenly some managers have their ears turned. There's already the rumours that Tuchel is holding off for the World Cup because he wants the England job. There's huge rumours in England at the moment that he's waiting and seeing to see if a good international job comes up. You don't want to be that guy that fucks up and misses out. And
yeah,
if I'm Villa, I'm thinking, Jesus, do we bite the bullet now with Gerrard, go into the December break with a clean slate, and then maybe take one of these guys who may lose their job? It's going to be an interesting one, but Chelsea 3-0.
It's going to be interesting to watch. Yeah, I got Chelsea 4-0, you got 3-0. I think it's going to be an interesting watch them.
Tell you what, if you're an Australian, this game here has probably seen some of the best goals Aussies have scored. Q has scored some belters. Viduka in his time has battered this side. Leeds versus Arsenal. A great game. Pom loves a sacking. Should have been a line. Hey, mate, I froth a sacking, bro. I would have been the world's greatest linebacker. I love a sack.
Speaking of smashings and sackings, I've got Arsenal 4-0 as well. This could be ugly.
Bad one.
This could be horrendous.
You look at Leeds' form coming into this as well. Like 3 losses, 2 of the worst draws against 2 of the worst times.
Yes. But we've just sacked 3 coaches in 3 games, by the way.
Tell you what, it might be sacking Sunday, but I mean, I want Leeds to do well. Like, I do want Leeds. Like, Leeds are a team. Like, I'm a proper fan. Like I say in AFL, you need a strong Collingwood, a strong Essendon, strong Richmond, a strong Carlton. You need it for the excitement factor. It brings something to it. I want Leeds that mid-table fighting up there. I'm glad Arsenal are back there. Do you know what I mean? Because I want United to be there so we can be fighting again. The old Vieira days. I want to see Partey go up against Casemiro and relive the days. Leeds here, Arsenal could put a number on them. I'm going to go Arsenal 5-0.
Oof. I got them 4, but yeah, I could easily see 5. 100%.
I can see it. And then this is a game that I've got squeaky bum time about. United versus Newcastle United. And having raved about Newcastle, my team have to face them at home. And Old Trafford hasn't been a happy hunting ground for United. Three of their last four wins have come away from home. United seem to prefer playing away at the moment. Big game for United. They need to win this. Currently fifth. They want to stay in that. They need that Champions League football. They need it. Big game this for them. Big game because you presume Spurs and Chelsea with the easier fixtures are going to win them games.
Well, this is a 6-pointer again, but from the other end of the table because you've got Newcastle just breathing down their throats. I've got it 2-2. I think this is going to be an absolute cracking game. I've got it 2-2, but I do think there could be a winner for either one. I can't pick. I think someone will win 3-2, but I can't pick who it is. So I'm going to go 2-2 for both with a late.
I've got 3-1 United, and I'm going to call it. It's going to be 1-1.
Yeah.
It's going to be 1-1 till about 80 minutes. Oof. The chant is going to go out. Viva Ronaldo. They're going to hold the board up. They're going to put number 10 off for number 7. Ronaldo's going to come on. Ronaldo's going to bang 2 in the last 10 minutes. Lead United home. And United will all but shore up a Champions League spot in October.
Would love it. Love to hear that.
You watch Bruno D'Aniello with a 30-yard screamer. 90 minutes, me into Fazz's DMs saying I hate life, I hate sport. We can get folks because your team played the same time as mine, so always entertaining in our DMs, mine and Fazz, when we're playing at the same time because we're hating our clubs. Yeah, this is a big game. Hammers, Southampton. You're up against my wife's side. How are we going?
Look, I'm just going based purely on form and the fact that Libbojrjr doesn't play for Southampton anymore, who you bank him to score. I'm tipping West Ham 3-0. I feel like West Ham have got their rhythm back. They've got their jive back. I feel like Southampton are just teetering a little bit, and I can see West Ham being quite comfortable in this game.
Well, I mean, Southampton lost to Everton and Wolves and Villa in a 3-week period. Like, let's be honest. I can't think of 3 worse sides in the league, and they've been beaten by them. And I'll give them last week. I actually thought they were impressive against City. I was watching them and going, I watched you the other night against Everton get absolutely dicked by Dwight McNeil, and now you're stopping Haaland's score. Yeah. I've got this 2-0 West Ham. I think comfortable West Ham. I think Bowen's going to send a message to Southgate saying, do you want to pick someone outside of the top 4?
Look, I hope so. And at the end of the day, do we believe in karma? Because if we do, I buried Southampton in our Premier League preview. I said they'd get relegated this season. So that just generally means that they'll probably come up and get a shit 1-0 win against us because I've written them off. But no, I've got them 3-0, West Ham 3-0. So happy days.
There we are. And then we finish with the tie, potentially, of the round, because should anything happen to my team, hopefully City can put a smile on my face, because the last 3 years of Liverpool being up high and us being mid-table has been hell on earth. Haaland train, as we're going to call it now, comes into Liverpool. Obviously, with it being at home at Anfield, with all them Scousers, there's a chance of some robbery happening. Can Liverpool do the unthinkable?
Nah. Talking about sackings, I think City will win 4-1. I think Darwin will score the first for Liverpool, and then the chance will go around is, who are you for Haaland, and then City will just rollick at home 4-1.
I've got a feeling here that I think watching last week, there was an ominous sign that I thought City were complacent as hell. And you could see Pep getting agitated with them, that they weren't quite on. And when they played us, they were sensational. And it actually hurt when we scored 3 goals, because it was almost like they'd stopped trying. We were giving 10 out of 10. and it still wasn't enough to be a 5 out of 10. I've got a feeling that Pep hates Liverpool.
Oh yeah.
And
Well, I mean, who doesn't?
But because I think he sees them as their genuine contenders, their
Yeah.
genuine threat. And I get a feeling that he wants to make a statement of the gap is in place. I'm going to go 4-0 City.
Yep.
They'll keep a
Love
clean
it.
sheet. And I reckon they'll add insult to injury. Pom's big call. 50 minutes. Haaland's going to be on 2 goals. He subs him off.
Oh, love it.
Starts bringing all the kids on.
Yo,
Like he did
mate.
against us. That is
Isn't there-
embarrassing.
Oh, is there anything more deflating when a team subs on some 16, 17-year-old?
Mate.
You know, oh, mate.
Mate, one of my mates is a City fan, and I've got to say, I've known him since I was about 8. And I remember he used to just get the shit ripped out of him that he supported a team that was shit. And obviously, he's got to see the thing. But I've just got a feeling that he texts me and like he was taking the piss, going, Who's number 58? We've just subbed on against you guys. I've never heard of him. Is he real?
You're in trouble. You're in trouble when you see that the board goes up and the numbers are in the 50s or 60s.
Mate, I know people are talking about Liverpool. Have they found something? They did beat my beautiful Rangers, who are a Scottish side. And if people keep telling me Scotland is a fucking pub league, you should beat a 7-1 because our average squad is worth one of your reserve players. So I am going to put it this way. I did not watch Liverpool because we were the better side in that first half for those who watched it. We battered them. City are 500 leagues above Rangers. I reckon City will make a statement. And unfortunately, the ugliest man in the world, Erling Haaland, is probably going to be at the centre stage of that.
Love it. Love it. I'm with you. 4-1. Excellent.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. We've done the round ball. We're looking forward to the World Cup. It's only, 6 weeks away?
Tasty, tasty.
So we will be all the way up there, and then we'll convert this into a World Cup show and maybe try and give some people some second teams to support in the World game.
Yep, and that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Picking when you're going to the World Cup as well. You obviously you go for your country, but you always pick one of your dark horses that you like to watch. And
we should do one of them drinking games. You know that someone suggested where you drink one of them beers from each club.
Oh yeah. So like get a beer from each country and drink that. Yeah. I love it. You know what I mean? That's a great idea.
I can't wait to try a beer from blooming Cameroon and stuff like that. It's going to be awesome.
You can really taste the goat shit.
You nearly killed me on a swallow there, mate. No, well, thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you next week. And enjoy your football.